Continuing with Canto 3, Chapter 25, text number 24. It's on the screen over here. We'll chant responsively. Ta ete sadhava sadhi sarva sangha vivarjitaha sangaste shutata sangaste shvata te prarthra sangadosha hara Nihite Ta ete sadhava sadhvi Sarva sangha vivarjitaha Sangaste shvatate prartya Sangadosha hara hite. Oh, my mother, O virtuous lady, Sadhvi. These are the qualities of great devotees who are free from all attachment. You must seek attachment to such holy men, for this counteracts the pernicious effects of material enjoyment. The pernicious, dosha. Dosha means pernicious or fault. Sangha dosha. Nice word, pernicious. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Kapila Muni herein advises his mother, Devahuti, that if she wants to be free from material attachment, she should increase her attachment. For sadhus or devotees who are completely free from all material attachment. In Bhagavad Gita, 15th chapter, verse 5, it is said, who is qualified to enter into the kingdom of God, Godhead. It is said there, near Mama Moha Jitta Sangha Dosha. Same idea. This refers to one who is completely free from the puffed up condition of material possessiveness. Nirmama, Nirmana, Moha, Jittasanga Dosha. A person may be materially rich, opulent, or respectable, but if he at all wants to transfer himself to the spiritual kingdom back home, back to Godhead, then he has to be freed from the puffed up condition of material possessiveness, because that is a false position. Paragraph. The word moha used here means the false understanding that one is rich or poor in this material world. Conception that one is very rich or very poor, or any such consciousness in connection with material existence, is false, because this body itself is false or temporary. A pure soul who is prepared to be freed from this material entanglement must, first of all, be freed from the association of the three modes of nature. Our consciousness at the present moment is polluted because of association with the three modes of nature. Therefore, in Bhagavad Gita, the same principle is stated. It is advised, Jitta Sangha Dosha. One should be freed from the contaminated association of the three modes of material nature. Here also, in the Srimad Bhagavatam, this is confirmed. A pure devotee who is preparing to transfer himself to the spiritual kingdom is also freed from the association of the three modes of material nature. We have to seek the association of such devotees. For this reason, we have begun the International Society for Krishna Consciousness. There are many mercantile, scientific, and other associations in human society to develop a particular type of education or consciousness, but there is no association with help which helps one to get free from all material association. If anyone has reached the stage where he must become free from this material contamination, then he has to seek the association of devotees wherein Krishna consciousness is exclusively cultured. One can thereby become free from all material association. Paragraph. Because a devotee is freed from all contaminated material association, he is not affected by the miseries of material existence. That was the previous verse, right? Even though he appears to be in the material world, he is not affected by the miseries of the material world. How is it possible? There is a very good example in the activities of a cat. The cat carries her kittens in her mouth, and when she kills a rat, she also carries the booty in her mouth. Thus, both are carried in the mouth of the cat, but they are in different conditions. The kitten feels comfort in the mouth of the mother, whereas the rat is carried in the mouth of the cat. The rat feels the blows of death. Similarly, those who are sadhava, or devotees engaged in Krishna consciousness in the transcendental service of the Lord, do not feel the contamination of material miseries, whereas those who are not devotees in Krishna consciousness actually feel the miseries of material existence. One should therefore give up the association of materialistic persons and seek the association of persons engaged in Krishna consciousness, and by such association he will benefit in spiritual advancement. By their words and instructions, he will be able to cut off his attachment to material existence. Isn't it nice how this plays directly into the verse from yesterday? Those two verses from Queen Kunti's prayers. Please cut chindanti kovidastasya. Cut the knot of affection. Now, this verse is saying, cut the knot of affection and build another knot. So it's with Kunti's prayers it's implied, and with this verse it's explicit. Implicit, explicit. This is incomplete without that. That isn't going to happen without this. So it's simultaneous. There's cleansing and awakening, or restoring our original consciousness in the bhakti process. So let's go back and to the beginning of the chapter, the question. He's still answering her question, the how-to question. And the how to answer is Sadhu Sangha. The how to maintain herself without the presence of her husband, the protection of her husband, the association of her husband, the mindfulness of service through serving her husband. And then Kapila Deva is also going to go, and then what's going to happen? How will I maintain? So he's indicating Sadhu Sangha. Now, where is nice lady like Queen Devahuti, not Queen, Devahuti going to find Sadhu Sangha? Well, there's sadhus, and so the principle is indicated, the characteristics are indicated. What is the outcome of one who takes shelter in devotional service like a sadhu does, and then the outcome of association with a sadhu and attachment to sadhu. So one attachment is wanted, the other attachment is not wanted. Let's go back to Kunti's prayers. Well, does that mean the Pandavas and the Vrishnis aren't sadhus? That's not what it means. Because it's refinement of this, that is, the material portion, etc. Let my attachment, affection, mind go specifically and exclusively Ananya Bhavena to the personality of Godhead, which does not exclude the Pandavas and the Vrishnis, or sadhus. It's a subtle yet important point. when there's association with sadhus, how to not just become attached to their physical presence, but become attached to them, because their physical presence is not them. Just this morning, Prabhupada's in Montreal, and 1968, because one of the earliest temples was in Montreal. New York, Los Angeles, San Francisco, Montreal. So he was in Montreal, 1968, and one girl asked a question. We're so happy when you're here, and when you're gone, we're so unhappy. What to do? And Prabhupada gave appreciation, but also instruction. The instruction is by remembrance of the message, by remembrance of the message of the spiritual master, in this case Prabhupada, then the feelings of separation can be mitigated, or even more, transcended. Or as Queen Kunti, please remove the material portion, because the essence of the spiritual master's association is not his physical presence. It's nice, physical presence is nice, more than nice. It's fantastic. And for that reason, Prabhupada didn't just give classes in a room. He traveled all over the world many times, giving his physical association, and boy, was that uplifting. And then when he left, it was, so etc. So there's nothing wrong with feeling some upliftment and nice things from the Sadhu Sangha in the physical presence of Sadhu. That's wanted. And in the absence of that physical presence, which is what her question is, when my husband's gone and you're gone, then what? Seek Sadhu Sangha. Here's a little Prabhupada story. I've told this many times. In Vrindavan, there was a time when there was our temple, and it was agricultural land practically in all directions. There was a few long-standing structures. I forget the name of the place, but the place that houses Jiva Goswami's literature and his library. What's that place called? Huh? No. Right along Raman Reti. But anyway, there were some old structures, but largely by Prabhupada's choosing, the temple was a little removed, and the devotees thought, "What? We should be downtown." And Prabhupada didn't budge. It was where it was, and now it's like crazy. But then it was just agricultural land in all directions. So his morning walk, very prompt, at 6 o'clock, he'd leave his quarters, come along the side of the temple, go out the front gate, and turn right. And there wasn't like some law that said these people are allowed to come in this morning walk. Just some people came, sometimes more, sometimes less. So one morning, coming back to the gate just before 7 o'clock, because he would go and greet the deities, etc. So we heard kirtan. I was in this morning walk, and as we got closer to the gate, the kirtan got louder. It was, pretty enthusiastic kirtan right at the gate. Mridangas, kartals, and jumping devotees. And then Prabhupada stopped and looked around and said, "Where are all the devotees?" And someone said, "They're at the gate, Prabhupada. They're waiting for you to come back." And that wasn't what his question was intended. He said, "There's so few devotees here in the morning walk. Where are all the devotees?" He said it again. Then he said, when there's an opportunity for association with the spiritual master, one should seek it. That's called Vapu. And then he looked around and said, and when there's Vapu, there's also Vani. He looked around, paused. And when there's absence of Vapu, there's always Vani. So of the two, Vani is more important even when it's Vapu. The sound vibration from the spiritual master is most important. Looked around, continued on. He was always ready to give jewel-like instructions in every moment of his life. So, back to the topic of Sadhu Sangha. So it's where's attachment rest? Generally speaking, attachment rests in the mind. There's the senses, and there's the object of the senses, and there's the perception of the objects through the knowledge-acquiring senses, and the signals go to the mind, and one develops some attachment. It's the tendency. The attachment could be I like or I don't like. So happiness and distress, and like and dislike, and attachment, detachment, those are functions of the mind. Is it possible? The answer is yes. Is it possible to become detached? Well, on the material side, one can become temporarily detached, and impersonalists or yogis and people like that, they try to become detached from objects. And part of that is tapasya, and part of that is meditation. Meditation in the sense of withdrawing the mind from and placing the mind on. So if you place the mind on voidism or impersonalism, there's some potency, but it's ineffective because the living entity by nature is active. And that means the mind is also active. So you try to put a vice on the mind and check it. Good luck. It may last, generally it doesn't, but it may last for some time. But it's not the nature of the soul, it's not the nature of the mind. Because the spiritual mind is part of the soul. And so the modes of nature move, the vasanas of the living entity, the cumulative karma of living entities move through the force of time. And sure enough, the mind is on other topics besides that which is beyond matter. So the text, back to the text, this is Sadhu Sangha has a potency. Now, what does that Sadhu Sangha mean that's coming up? What do you do when you're with sadhus? Besides hear from them, it's service, the main idea. When there's attachment, let's take a material object. Supposing somebody has a dog or a house or a car or something. Just yesterday, I saw a car parked with one of those locks on the steering wheel. I commented, I haven't seen one of those since New York. So some people are attached to their car. Some people are attached. So you can be attached to an object, or you can be attached to a living entity. But if you perceive the object or the living entity as not connected to Krishna, then it's a material attachment. And material attachment brings what she doesn't want, suffering and disconnect from the Supreme. So to see objects and entities, persons, best to become attached to the Supreme, and attachment to the Supreme through the medium of attachment to those connected to the Supreme. Sadhu Sangha. And attachment. So that's the instruction in this verse. Oh, my dear mother, Sadhvi, virtuous lady, indicating she's certainly capable because she's virtuous. Virtuous people can do things that persons that are not virtuous struggle with. So the virtuous lady become attached to sadhu, because by attachment to sadhu, you can go beyond, from the previous verse, the miseries. So Prabhupada is in the second half of the purport, just retold yesterday's verse or the previous verse of going beyond miseries. One more time, just to repeat what was from yesterday. The sense organs don't shut down. That is to say, there's some parts of this area, there was light rain. Some parts of this area where it was heavy rain. So now you don't not know that there's rain, and you can do different things. Prabhupada's comment. Prabhupada, are devotees very interested in astrology? Prabhupada, if you know it's going to rain, you might bring an umbrella. What? You might not also, I didn't say that, but you might bring an umbrella. Stay focused on what life's mission is, your personal mission in life. And then when you're focused, you're aware of what's going on. You have senses. You can perceive what's going on in different ways. And through knowledge, you can even know what hasn't happened yet, or what happened in the past, although you can't with your immediate. So extensions of the senses can also tell you some things. While doing this or that, if you're a yogi, if you're attached to the Supreme, connected to the Supreme and attached to the Supreme, then miseries, you can perceive them, but it doesn't make up happiness and distress, doesn't make up your sense of identity. Your sense of identity remains fixed. And that's yoga. Easier said than done, but that's yoga. And there's a process, a means to make that connection real. And as much as that connection becomes real, then there's transcendence of the miseries, whatever those miseries might be. Corporeal, the three. Somebody might say something nasty. Sometimes people say something nasty. So some people get disturbed and some people are undisturbed. Etc. The seasonal changes, sometimes and sometimes. So you may wear a jacket. You may carry an umbrella. You may not. But it's not you. It's not happiness or distress. Now this is the way of yoga, the way of becoming beyond the miseries of material existence. You can perceive what they are, but you don't relate with them. You don't identify. Why? Because there's a stronger and prominent, positive identification beyond duality. Bhagavatam's very nice, isn't it? Any discussion?
I have a few thoughts, Maharaj. One is, even the other day when we heard about Prabhupada's in the life of the Bhagavatam, I was thinking about, and today we heard about very prompt. Srila Prabhupada is always very on schedule, very regulated, but I was thinking about how to me it feels like an eternal life struggle to be regulated. I'm always trying, and sometimes it gets a little bit tiring when I'm not successful in being able to, sometimes it happens, but then I always get derailed with,
Something.
being regulated in different ways. And
what to do?
There is the what to do for sure. I was also connecting it to the discussion about goals. So I feel like if someone's really fixed on a mission, we hear about non-devotees who are like so fixed on their mission, and there's non-devotees who are more regulated than devotees, because they're so driven by whatever it may be. So I was thinking about this, the whole discussion about goals and like having a very strong mission that drives us and helps us to do being regulated, for example. And,
fine.
So I was also thinking, how does one know? Because we spoke like there's a hierarchy of missions and submissions.
Hierarchy of
the goals and like sub goals.
Sure. Okay.
Like
Yes.
And like you were saying, for somebody who's has a service attitude, the goal is more substantial or like more detailed than going back to Godhead. There's like different some other kind of goal to hold on to. And so I was thinking like, and you were also saying yesterday to be patient. And so I was like, how do I know when I have what that goal or mission is for me? And is it possible that it changes throughout life?
Oh, yeah.
And yeah, so I was just exploring that. Like, I've definitely had things driving me at different times, but I was like, should there be one thing for a very long time? And like, how do I know
that's wanted. And even your articulation of what that is, one of the questions, or comments questions, is it, can it be adjusted? Yes. One of the characteristics of a Vaishnav, one of the characteristics of a transcendentalist, is they are introspective. And being introspective can help such a Vaishnav from being reactive instead of introspective. That is, it's a mode of goodness characteristic. Something happens and then you become reflective. You don't. So the goal setting and what does that mean? It's more at the heart level than the head level. And then the heart drives the intelligence, drives the mind, drives the senses. That's when things are in proper order. And when things are not in proper order, then it goes the other way. The senses drive the mind, drives the intelligence, drives the soul is lost. The secondary, a comment that I made on the Light of the Bhagavad topic was, it's not that I can't imagine, maybe it was, I can't imagine that in 1961 when Prabhupada was sitting in that little room at the Vangsi Gopal temple, he was envisioning building a temple of Vedic planetarium in Mayapur. But the temple of Vedic planetarium in Mayapur was completely in alignment with Light of the Bhagavad and the purpose of Light of the Bhagavad. It expanded and expanded and expanded, and as opportunities, intelligence was driven by his life mission. Empowered by Lord Chaitanya and disciplic succession to achieve what he achieved, and being reminded along the way by Rupa Goswami, a vision, etc., etc., etc. So, what about us? The same principle applies. You go back, we're little people, quite tiny, quite insignificant. At the same time, there's some service, using the phrase from the other day, awaiting for us to be fulfilled. And Krishna endows, bestows capacity to do something. And then, through the passage of time, then some endeavor may be made to do that something. So, sort of connect that something to the world out there. That is, the glories of the personality of Godhead should be heard, sung, and remembered by as many as possible. And I may be an instrument doing this part, someone is doing that part, and then it was my part. So, back to Godhead, it's commented on here in the purport. In other places, Prabhupada would say, the devotee doesn't aspire to go back to Godhead, the devotee aspires to please Krishna. And pleasing Krishna is equivalent to going back to Godhead. Even in this life, the absorbed in the consciousness of pleasing Krishna is back to Godhead. And then Krishna can send one wherever. So the goal is not go from this geographic location to that geographic location, and that's my goal of life. If one has that idea, it's a very limited conception. It's not exactly a spiritual conception. So back to your regulated, unregulated. The reset, here's what happens if you have a particular mission. In the irregulation, it happens, you just hit the reset button, however many times you hit the reset button. And you keep hitting the reset button because it's a subset of the higher mission. I had this discussion with Leela Smara on the way from the airport to the first program, Saturday evening program. The essence of Krishna, there's some talk going on in circles about fastidious attachment to regulations and rules. And some persons are standing on a soapbox saying, the rules say this. I mean, the application, one of the applications of that is female Diksha gurus or not. But the persons that are saying not, they're standing on a soapbox. It's not part of the... And then, anyway, so then the essence is not rules and regulations. Krishna consciousness is not made or broken by your becoming regulated. It's a symptom of goodness, and we want to be in goodness, but the essence of Krishna Bhakti is not this or that. And on the physical plane, we want the physical plane to be in alignment with the transcendental plane. And so the reset is alignment to that transcendental plane, or being a more fit recipient of Krishna's empowerment to fulfill my purpose, and that being in the mode of goodness. So they take the example of Raghunath Das Goswami. He was at the topmost stage, and he was very regulated, lines in stone. So that's nice, and I'm not Raghunath Das Goswami. And so what to do? Make sure you have alignment with what the higher goal is, and that will give strength to move in the direction of regulation. That's the reset button. And, however many times doesn't matter, because your purpose is there. And that can live beyond, whatever that mission is that you're meant to fulfill, can live beyond your lifetime, even if it doesn't look like it got fulfilled. Like Prabhupada and the writing of Light of the Bhagavad. Now that's a nice example, and it may not be exactly like that for us, but the principle is the principle. The alignment with Krishna is to be pleased. That has its exponential and, going out into the world effect. We may, we're not empowered like Prabhupada was empowered. He impacted the world, and it's still going on. And we have our little part to play. And it may or may not happen according to, what you have a sense of the gift that Krishna is, your mission in life, that which is awaiting to be fulfilled by you because Krishna wants you and gives you the resources to do, the ability to do, the capacity to do. It may or may not happen, but the goal is to strive for that, and that Krishna is pleased by your striving for that, whether it happens or not. To your capacity. Make realistic. But then on the other hand, Prabhupada went for the rhinoceros. But, Krishna gave him the ability. Whether it happened or not was because there's so many indicators along the way that it wasn't happening, wasn't happening, wasn't happening, wasn't happening, wasn't happening. It wasn't happening, wasn't happening, wasn't happening. He wasn't put off. He considered, maybe I should go back to India and other things like that. But he stayed because he had a mission. Others? Okay. That's it for the morning. Srila Prabhupada.